Hello, everybody, and welcome to a lyrical analysis of Totalitär's music. This video is gonna be me going through the lyrics of the band Totalitär and discussing what I think the politics of Totalitär are. The reason why I chose Totalitär is because I think they're really, really good, and I also think they had a big impact in like Swedish hardcore and D-beat, but also internationally. I think they have made a big impression. They also have a big catalog of music, and they also had quite political texts, and I guess most punk bands do, but they also have kind of like convoluted meanings in a lot of their texts. I think there's a lot of meat to go through with all that. To go over Totalitär, they formed in the end of 1984 and start of 1985, and released their last album as of 2022 in 2007. They released some compilation stuff after 2007, but all the originally created stuff was between 85 and 2007. The album I'm going to talk about today is Multinationella Mördare from 1987. I'm going to talk about this, the third recording that Totalitär did, because the one they recorded the 1 year earlier, Snabb livsglädje, some of the lyrics are missing, and the rehearsal recording the year before that in 1985, I haven't seen any lyrics at all, and I have actually not even heard the songs, even though they are released. One impression I've gotten from just looking at the names of those first songs and also listening to the Snabb livsglädje demo recording from '86 is that it feels like Totalitär kind of had their message or politics decided from the start. Before we jump into the translation and breakdown of the lyrics, I first want to talk a little bit about where Totalitär is from. They are from Hudiksvall, a town with only 16,000 people as of 2020. And I always say that Hudiksvall is maybe the most dense place when it comes to punk bands in all of the world. I would love to have some discussion if there is some other place with even more punks per capita. The Missbrukarna is a very big name that also comes from Hudiksvall, that started in late 70s. And there is actually a whole compilation of bands that recorded in the Orsa studio just outside of Hudiksvall. And you can, with that one and the book that came with it, you can really see the big flora and fauna of the punk bands around the Hudik area. And with modern Hudik hardcore, we got bands like Gefyr and Krodofogden, still holding the banner high for Hudiksvall hardcore. And they also have out in Delsbo, they've had the Ostämman festival for 3 years in a row between 2017, 2018, and 2019. They had it, and in 2019 I was actually there myself, and it was really, really great. I have some really good memories from there. They also have the Angry Hudik records. And I'll show you the website that they have. It's really nice that they're doing all these extra things, not just having bands, but also having like the record label to get their stuff out, and there are also a few people in the Hudik scene that also are into the fanzine stuff. So yeah, it's really alive and well, that hardcore scene. So with that said, I think we can jump into the text analysis of Multinationella Mördare, the EP from 1987. So the first song we're gonna talk about is the first track of the EP, Multinationella Mördare, same name as the EP. I wanna listen to the intro and the first verse and the first chorus, because I think it's really punchy. The intro is really powerful, and we also get a feel for how the lyrics are delivered. Yeah, so I accidentally laughed there a bit, but you probably heard the song really well anyway. So it's really hard to hear what the singer is singing, but you can hear the chorus, and I think it's an interesting thing with a lot of punk bands that even though you can only hear the chorus, you can really get a feeling for what kind of stuff they're on about. And sometimes you really misinterpret what those small little things that you hear, what they actually mean. So this song is about exploitative companies with a focus on companies that move their production to a country where they can exploit workers and sell the products to other countries really cheaply. And it makes me think of the deindustrialization of Sweden, or like all the companies moving their production abroad, something that is still happening in Sweden, and I think in other places in the world where union work has become stronger. The companies move their production where they can exploit workers more effectively. And this song talks about that. And there is also a theme of environmentalism in the second verse. I know that the theme of environmentalism is also brought up by some other punk bands from this era and also earlier. So I know it was a topic back then, as it is now. And a third topic that I'm noticing that they bring up is this first line of the last verse: "Who the fuck do you think makes apartheid remain?" And I think they just kind of referencing the whole, white power dynamics of the world, or how you should call it, the whole exploitative systems that are related to racism. That's all I want to say about this song. Let's move on to the next one. The second song of the album is Kannibalerna, the Cannibals. And the whole theme for this song is how bad people who eat meat are. It's kind of it doesn't really go in depth on why they think that people who eat meat are bad or have a bad sense of morale or bad sense of ethics. So that's really, and it's a special focus they have, that it's the person that's eating meat is bad, so they don't really attack the structure or anything, or a very strong focus on personal ethics or morale. That's all I want to say about this song, except that it was featured on the Snabb Livsglädje demo that was released the year before. That's Kannibalerna. Let's move on to the next song. By the way, this cursor thing I've been playing with is not related to the band or anything. It's just a little pattern I did. The third song is called Allas, livvakt, everyone's bodyguard, and it's about USA and their imperialist and capitalist politics. We got the first line, an interesting one. He stands on high podiums and talks down on Libya. And during the 80s, there was a lot of stuff between Libya and the US, and it was a really big thing that happened in 1986 when US accuses Libya of a discotheque bombing in Berlin. USA ends up bombing Libya because of that, and the US ends up looking kind of bad, and I think they mention it because it might be a kind of a good point of pointing to America's imperialism. With the second line, he stands with one foot in USA and swings the other over the world, and I guess it's a good point to point out that I seem to have a bit of spelling errors. He stands with one foot, supposed to say. In the chorus, they say that his breath stinks of starvation. I think it's really easy to just reference to Multinationella Mördare, the first song of the EP, about kind of what they think about all that. And his lies are true. I can see that, like, referencing to the propaganda machine and trying to set themselves as the norm in the world. Kind of with the last sentence in the first verse, he teaches the content of a good movie: drama, oppression, and violence. You can see some links there. And I also want to mention a last thing, I also want to say his lies are true. That kind of how they deliver it in the song, how the singer sings it, I think it's really powerful, and I want to praise this chorus for being like the one with it has really good like delivery on the lyrics. It's really good. And the last line in the chorus, his freedoms for the rich. He's everyone's bodyguard, but the first part, his freedoms for the rich. We're going to be able to talk more about that kind of when Totalitär talks that way about like freedom, a certain kind of freedom, and just freedom as this big buzzword. They have a real big problem with it, and I can see why, with neoliberalist talking points using talks about freedom a lot for like trying to promote what they think is good in a really how should I say it, in a really convoluted way that makes it easy to muddy the waters. He is the hero that came from nowhere, the hero who gives money to the Ku Klux Klan. When I read that, I was thinking, yeah, the US has a racist history, nothing new there. But I'm also thinking, was there some kind of scandal in the 80s where some higher up in the US government or where somewhere gave money to the Ku Klux Klan? And I was also thinking that like this could basically be some modern day scandal, just the same thing happening nowadays with the bunch of like white supremacy bullshit. I also found it interesting, the last line of this verse that I'm pointing at right now. He's a real freedom fighter, the leader of the free Western world. I think they're really pointing again to this imperialist ideology of USA and how they try to squeeze themselves into international issues, usually not because they want to help to de-escalate the problem, but rather to get some kind of gain for themselves and gain more power internationally. And in this last verse, it just seems to be a critique of the like imperialist apparatus or whatever, trying to make their norms the standard in the world. So that's Everyone's Bodyguard. Has a really, really slapping intro. I really love the kind of intro they're going for in this song. But with that said, we're gonna move on to song number 4 on the EP. Now we're taking on the 4th song, det frihet? Is that freedom? Or is it freedom? I guess you could call it, but it's a song about neoliberalism, I would say, and how you use calling freedom to muddy their effects to kind of serve your agenda in general, and a way for like anti-government deregulating ideas to spread in a populist way, really easily digestible, and with the song itself, the lyrics, they kind of just say buzzwords, and it feels like they can mean either things that result from us, like weak government, kind of this anti-government, strong company, neoliberalist ideology, and they can also mean the results from kind of trying to tear down all the safety nets that was built in Sweden before, like in maybe this around the 50s, 60s, where it was really on the uprise, and I guess in the late 80s, were like being strongly attacked by a lot of neoliberalist forces. And I guess some points to point out is that they reference drug abuse, porn, and humiliation in one sentence. So I guess they were kind of against porn, but they don't really go into kind of like any deeper stuff about it. You can assume, especially since they group it together with drug abuse, this kind of freedom arguments is that, like, if people want to be fucked up on drugs and die in the streets, that's their choice, and we shouldn't help them because they chose to do it. I don't know, that kind of, I mean, I make it sound like it's like a joke that people say, but can be kind of like that sometimes. And they also point about the destruction of the environment as an important thing that They want to stop. They want the environment to be good. Would you imagine that people want that? That is everything I want to say about this song, and I'm ready to move on to the last song of the album. It's time for the last song of the album. Det är samma förtryck. The oppression is the same. And I think this might actually be the strongest song lyrically on this album. And I think so because this first verse. What's the difference between Russian communism and American fascism? They're both the same bloodsuckers. They live well on others' work. Like, I find it so refreshing or so good that they break down this false separation between the idea of the Soviet Union and the USA, that they're like these opposite powers or something, when that's not how it is, and or that's not how it was, and I guess even today with Russia, that still draw a lot of how should you call it? It really feels like the Russian politics is really colored by the fact that they were the Soviet Union, and they had all these talking points about being a workers' state and all that kind of stuff. And then they just reestablish it with the chorus. It's the same fucking oppression. And then they kind of talk about what they think is important in the last verse. With general elections don't matter as long as the oppression stays the same. And what's important is the workers' lives, that they toil away and they pay with their freedom to fund capitalism and give all the profits to the managers. And I think it's nice how they point to the improvement of people's lives. It's the most important thing. I guess nowadays it's nice to extend it to other people than just workers, because of how the workforce isn't as I don't know, it feels more divided now, when we're not supposed to be workers anymore. We're supposed to be independent contractors or whatever. But that's it for me about this song. The oppression's the same. The Samma förtryck. I want to wrap it up with a overview of this EP, and then we're done. Here we got the overview for the EP. I decided I want to have a category for each song. So the 4 categories I decided is anti-capitalist, animal rights, anti-imperialist, and anti-neoliberalist. The animal rights category I feel is really straightforward, but the anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, and anti-neoliberalist categories I feel are kind of interchangeable, and I think songs can really touch on different themes, and I think they already do on this album. But I still want to try to separate them, because they can be expressed in separate ways, even though they are usually combined. So with capitalist or capitalism, I'm thinking about people owning something like a house, machine, land, or money, and then employing people to make a profit with those resources, and then taking a part of that profit. With imperialist, I'm thinking of a state or similar entity fighting other states or smaller groups to gain power in some way. It doesn't have to be with an army, and it doesn't have to be a war. With neoliberalism, well, that is an old ideology before the 1950s, but still really prevalent today. And the general gist is that it wants a weak government and a strong private sector. I wanted to find these categories to be able to do a big overview of a lot of songs to try to understand what bands are talking about in their songs. So with this groundwork and this first EP out of the way, I want to thank you for listening, and I'll see you some other time. Have a good one. Bye bye.